Welcome to Building Better Relationships with Chuck and Barb Lewis, equipping listeners and viewers with the biblical tools to conquer the difficulties faced in this life. Chuck has practiced crisis intervention since the 1980s and has been in ministry together with his wife Barb for over 20 years. They've taken the countless lessons and the knowledge they've acquired and have put them into this life skills class to share with you. We hope this blesses you.
Well, we're so excited to be with you again today. My name is Pastor Chuck Lewis, and this is my wife.
I'm Barbara.
And we are so thrilled to be able to come to you on this program and talk about different topics that's hopefully helpful to you. And we're going to give you an opportunity to send in your email questions if you have things that you want us to address on this program, things that you've wondered about. And we definitely don't claim to have all the answers. We don't even know all the questions, but we'll attempt to answer any questions you might have, on this program.
And one way they can send in a question for us would be on the website at prayer requests.
Yes.
They could put it in where the prayer requests are.
Right. Just under prayer requests, just write in your question. And if you want your name mentioned, we'll be glad to do that on the air. And if you don't want your name mentioned, please let us know that, and we will honor that as well. So today we're going to be talking about how to find your purpose for your life. And boy, Barb, I've been in the ministry now, 46 years, something like that. And wherever I've traveled in the world, and God's given me the privilege to travel all around the world preaching the gospel, and it's been exciting to do that. I never thought that I'd ever say that, but it's just been great to run into people all over the world that have been looking for their purpose. And I think that people need to know that the Bible talks about the fact that if we delight ourselves in the Lord, according to Psalms 37:4, the Bible says that He will give us the desires of our heart. Now, that says to me that God is very interested in the desire of our heart.
Right.
And when we seek the Lord and we get close to the Lord, what I find is our desires become like His. And we start desiring the very thing that He wants us to have. Yeah. And one time when I was in my early 20s, I was sitting and eating a banana split. And I can't do that.
Oh, for those days again.
Yes, for those days again. I can't do that anymore. Instead of landing on my arms, it lands right in my stomach. So anyway, as I was eating that, I just felt like, wow, this is sheer delight. And there wasn't any endurance at all to eating that. And I felt like the Lord was speaking to me that if we delight ourselves in Him the same way, He throws in the desires of our heart. And that is so amazing to me because God is such an awesome God, and He's such a good Father.
Yes.
See, a good functional father wants the best for his children, and a dysfunctional father doesn't want the best and is challenged by the best. But a functional father is not challenged at all. They're just promoting the best all the time. So God cares about our desires. And have you ever thought about asking the Lord to fulfill the desires of your heart?
Oh, absolutely.
And could you give us an example of that?
Well, I think the desire of a lot of women is to be a wife and a mother. And I remember that being a desire of mine when I was young. I've definitely prayed that prayer for, we want family, where I think men are more focused on what their career is going to be. And I'm sure a lot of women are too, but a lot of women look toward that family for their sense of fulfillment.
Right.
But I think all of us are purpose is to tell people about Jesus.
Yes. Yeah. And you might be watching today and say, boy, I've been single for a long time. Maybe you've been married for a little while and now you're divorced. Whatever the situation is, you feel alone, you feel single, you feel like maybe you'll never get married again. Well, we want to let you know that God still has a plan for you, and even though that situation might not have worked out for you, God's not done. And
Absolutely.
God doesn't say to us, well, sorry that it didn't work out the first time. That was your only shot at it, and you're never going to have an opportunity again. Well, that's not true. We know a lot of people that is married after a bad marriage again, and now it's an awesome marriage. And we're in that category. We both been married before, and our spouses both were unfaithful. And boy, I was single for probably 15 years or more after my first marriage, and it felt to me like I might not ever marry again. Did you feel that way too?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and then we prayed for each other, and I didn't know she existed, and she didn't know I existed, but the Lord put us together, and now we have a wonderful marriage. And it's not perfect. There's no perfect marriage existing until we're in heaven. We I don't know that we'll be married in heaven, but as long as we're on this earth, it's not going to be perfect, but it can be really good, and it can be really solid, and it can be very secure. So finding our purpose in life is very important. And I talked to a guy one time that said to me, I've always wanted to find my purpose, and I've never been able to find it. And I said, really? I said, well, what's the biggest desire of your heart? And he said, oh, that doesn't have anything to do with the purpose of God. I said, well, just humor me and tell me what that is. And he says, well, I want to race cars. And he said, see, that doesn't have anything to do with the will of God. I said, oh, yeah, it has everything to do with the will of God. He said, are you kidding me? And I said, no, I'm not. I said, God put the desire in your heart to race cars. He didn't put that in my heart. He put that in your heart. And I said, do you know how many people are out on the racetrack that need the Lord and need somebody to give them hope and encouragement? And I said, you can do that if you race cars and you do it in the name of the Lord. Oh, Barb, he got so excited. I thought he's going to turn cartwheels in my office because he said, I did not know that I could be in the perfect will of God and do the biggest desire of my heart. He said, I thought they were totally separate.
That's great.
Well, some things are that, like if we want to do bad things or whatever, that can be totally separate. But something like that can be a desire that God planted in our hearts, and God planted that in his heart, and now he's racing cars, and he's got Jesus is Lord painted on his cars, and he has Bible studies in the pits with his crew.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that incredible? And he's so excited. I'm telling you, he's just so excited to do what he loves to do, and do it all in the name of the Lord. See, we think sometimes that in order to do God's will, we've got to be reading our Bible all the time, or we've got to be praying all the time, and just not have a life at all. But that's not true. God wants us to read his word. He wants us to prepare and knowledge of his word to share with other people. And that desire can be anything. It can be working with children. It can be working with animals. It can be working with all kind of different causes out there. And the thing is to focus on what's the biggest desire that you have in your heart. So we want to encourage you today to think about what has been a burning desire in my heart for a long, long time, and I've not done anything with it. Well, God may have put that in your heart, to do. So you pray about that and you say, Lord, if this is truly from you, I ask you to confirm it. And I ask you to give me your favor and give me good connections with other people so that I can really fulfill what you've called me to do.
Yeah. And I think God gives us all gifts. And I heard somebody say one time, look at what you played when you were a kid or what you did when you were a kid, because that might indicate what you're going to do when you get older. And I remember with you were trying to counsel your parents
Oh,
or
yeah.
other people to help them figure out their problems, even when you were a little kid.
Oh, yeah.
And God has definitely anointed and gifted you for counseling. And for me, I never realized that. I took a spiritual gifts test, and teaching was one of my spiritual gifts. And when I thought back to what I did as a kid, when I took piano lessons, I taught all the neighbor kids how to play the piano, and even had a recital for all their parents.
There you go.
When I went to Vacation Bible School, we made a flannel graph story kit, and I used that to teach all the neighborhood kids Vacation Bible School. When I got a Tom Thumb typewriter that you could only type one letter at a time.
Oh,
And I made school books, and I taught, and we played like we were teaching school.
yeah.
And I just thought that was so interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I didn't realize that was one of my gifts, and yet that was something I was always doing.
Well, yeah, and you've always been a great teacher,
I think you are too.
Well, I think you're a better teacher than I am.
I've always thought you were a wonderful teacher.
Well, you see, that's a gift from God.
Yes.
And a lot of people have gifts that they never do anything with because they don't even know they have a gift. And the beautiful thing is discovering your gift is looking deep down inside and seeing what the desire of your heart is. I mean, you wanted to put school books together and teach the neighbors. I mean, that's a desire of your heart. And I love the fact that today you can go to an employment agency and they can test you for the areas that you're strong in.
Yes.
Okay. And some people are doing jobs that they're not strong in at all, and they get very discouraged about doing that because they maybe have not been called to that area.
Right.
But you can go to now, not all employment agencies do this, but some of them will literally test you to see what your strengths are.
Right. Yeah.
And then you can go after what you're strong in, not what you're weak in. See,
right.
But can you imagine doing the job that is the biggest desire of your heart and being excited to wake up in the morning, and instead of saying, "Good Lord, it's morning," you'll say, "Good morning, Lord. This is the day that you've made, and I'm going to be glad and rejoice in it." The Lord wants us happy and excited about what we do in our life. And boy, the Bible said the joy of the Lord is our strength. So, excuse me, look at what the desires are of your heart. Take inventory this week of some of the desires of your heart, and then practice that.
Yeah.
How would you say to do that? I gotta get some water.
Okay, here I have some. To ask the Lord what you're good at. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I think that God cares about every detail of our life, and I think that's where it begins, is asking him, what would you like me to do? And how can I pursue the things that bring life to me? Because there are things that really renew our spirit and bring life to us, and there's things that it's just an endurance. Like you are very good at sales, and if you believe in a product, you can sell it. Me, if somebody told me I had to do sales, oh my goodness. I'm a detail person. I love doing bookkeeping. I'm an introvert. Stick me in a corner, let me crunch numbers, and do bookkeeping, and I am a happy camper. But don't put me out there in the public making me work with a lot of people every day. I'm good one-on-one or in small groups, but not with big crowds. But you're very good at sales and talking to people.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I love to do that. I mean, somebody told me one time, Pastor Chuck, I think you could sell ice cubes to Eskimos. And when that's in your heart to do it, I mean, it's not a struggle at all. And that's the key. And if you're in a job right now that you don't like at all, you're enduring that job, and you just feel like, well, I hate what I'm doing, but I don't have any other options. Well, seek the Lord and ask God to open up the right doors. And I'm not saying quit your job, keep working at what you're doing, but be looking at other avenues and ask God for favor, that he will bring other people into your life that could possibly allow you to do the very thing that is the desire of your heart. So that's so thrilling to be. Somebody said, if you do what you love to do, you'll never work another day in your life. And that's really true, because when you're doing what you love, then it doesn't feel like work anymore.
Right.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
So I love what I do. I love being in the full-time ministry. I love selling. I love making things and doing projects and things like that. I really enjoy that. And I don't do those things because I have to. I do them because I want to. And if there's areas that need fixed that is out of my league, then I don't try to do them. I call somebody to do them or help me. And I always like to watch them to see if I can do it next time. But I know a plumber that doesn't even do any plumbing on his own house. He'll call another plumber to do the plumbing on his own house, because I said, why do you think you do that? And he said, well, I know I'm not getting paid for it, and it just makes me so frustrated when different things don't happen the way I want them to happen in plumbing.
Yeah.
And plumbing is like a big puzzle of putting a puzzle together, and it doesn't always happen the way we want it to happen. That's for sure.
I think it's important to know too that you don't have to make a perfect decision.
Right.
If like I've had people that are afraid to take a job for fear that means that's what they're going to be doing for the rest of their life.
Yes.
And one thing I heard about whenever a rocket takes off to go to the moon, we think they aim toward the moon, it takes off and goes directly to the moon, but it doesn't. All they do is they take off to get out of Earth's atmosphere, and then they make thousands of course corrections to get to the moon. Right. So I think it's important to know that God can use anything that you're doing in your life. And if this job, I mean, sometimes you have to try different things to find out what you like. And I've heard people that did a certain job and found out they liked training, but they didn't like this other part, or this part really worked well for them. But actually doing jobs can help you figure out what it is that you're gifted for and what you enjoy. So know that God will help you make those course corrections. I mean, you've done some things in your life that were extremely difficult for you. Didn't mean it wasn't God's will. Like whenever you did domestic violence classes, you taught classes for men that were court ordered that did domestic violence, and that was extremely stressful for you.
Yes.
But God
One of the
used
hardest
that.
things I ever did in my life.
It was. I remember, because he used to keep me up at night talking about it, and I had to tell him I can do 2 nights a week, but not 3.
Boy.
But God used the things that you learned doing that to develop the life skills that you teach now.
Right.
To teach a curriculum to employees at a big corporation.
Yes.
And so God has used everything you've done to teach you things that have helped you in what you do now, preaching and teaching.
Yeah, and the people that I've worked with have felt so disempowered. Is that the right word? Or
maybe powerless.
Just powerless. Yeah, is what I'm looking for. and kind of despondent, kind of depressed, and didn't feel excited about their job anymore because they were feeling that. And maybe you are too. We just want to encourage you today. Seek out the Lord, seek God's best for your life, and just see what He'll open up for you. Because the Bible said He wants to open up the windows of heaven and pour out blessing upon you that you cannot even contain. Wow, that's the goodness of our Father.
Mhm.
I mean, we have a wonderful Father. So seek the Lord today. Send any your questions or your comments to the email if you want to, and we'll try to address them even further. God bless you today. It's been wonderful to be with you, and we will see you next time.
If you are blessed by this ministry, please subscribe, like, and share. You can also make donations at chucklewisministries.com. Join us to keep uncovering the tools to build better relationships together. Let's do this again next week.